Think about a rivalry that has been fostered by hostility for many years, where customs could be destroyed by a single Instagram post that ignites a firestorm. Today, we're exploring the tragic tale of Jim Jones, the renowned member of the Dipset, Chrissy Lampkin, his longtime companion, and 50 Cent, the king of online trolling. The streets were buzzing when 50 Cent, who never lets a grudge go unpunished, covered a story that rocked the culture. He targeted the very center of Jim Jones' private life, rather than just sending a subliminal. Chrissy and 50 had a long-running secret meeting. According to the rumors, was it a reality hidden in the shadows of the brutal rap culture in New York? Or was it just another one of 50's clever tricks? 50 Cent had demolished empires previously, such as those of Ja Rule and Rick Ross. But this hit was different. Not only street cred or record sales were at risk here, but the integrity of a man's home. Jim Jones has been building his reputation as a devoted friend and street general for years. However, when the head boss implies a breach of devotion, the capo is forced to respond. In this examination, we are looking at more than just the headlines. We are examining the history of the Gunnet War, the specific image that sparked the craze, and the psychological strategies 50 Cent uses to dominate his rivals. Is there hard evidence of this night in question, or is Jim Jones just the next victim of 50's relentless quest for power? Buckle up, because this high-stakes drama is about to unfold. This is the story of how a rumor evolved into a possibly irreparable sickness. From party nights in the early 2000s to the digital battlefield of today. To understand, we have to go back to the early 2000s concrete jungles of New York City. How Jim Jones and 50 Cent might become so estranged on a single rumor about a night out. This era was as much about territory as it was about music. You have Kaiman and his right-hand man leading the Diplomats or Dipset. For years, 50 Cent's enormous power propelled Jim Jones and G. In a state of Cold War, these two titans coexisted. They attended the same clubs, had similar appetites, and came from the same neighborhoods, but because of their inflated egos, the city was unable to accommodate both of them. 50 Cent was ready to annihilate anyone who stood in his way of becoming the New York king after the success of Get Rich or Die Trying. On the other hand, Jim Jones was the lifeblood of Harlem, valuing loyalty and his Birdman aesthetics above all else. When it came to their families, the long-simmering hostility between these two groups rarely turned personal until 50 Cent decided to play his favorite game: psychological warfare. The best thing about 50 Cent is his memory. In addition to his poetic abilities, he also possesses a wealth of information and is skilled at figuring out when to take a skeleton out of someone's closet to cause the most damage. 50 Cent's decision to release an old photo, which appeared both random and deliberate, sparked a debate. He was seen standing near Chrissy Lampkin, a devoted hip-hop artist and longtime partner of Jim Jones. Photographing two celebrities at a pub may not seem like a crime on the surface, but in the hip-hop industry, subtext is very important. Instead than just a picture, 50 Cent offered an implication. He displayed the image in a way that suggested intimacy, or a shared past that Jim Jones was either unaware of or had tried to hide. The rumor mill immediately went into overdrive. 50 Cent was the first to have her, and many others began to inquire. Did Jim not know about any night in the past? This is considered the ultimate infraction in the hypermasculine culture of rap. It goes straight after a man's pride in being the dominant one in his relationship. 50 Cent knew exactly what he was doing. By bringing Chrissy into the conversation, he went directly for the heart, eliminating the usual rap feud cliches about who is wealthier or who has a higher record sales volume. He knew that Jim Jones and Chrissy Lampkin were one of the most famous and successful couples in the industry. Together, they have spent nearly 2 decades enduring the highs and lows of the legal system. Jim's foundation was being threatened by 50, who cast doubt on their previous. His goal was to make Jim look like the one who took seconds. 50 has used this strategy against several of his opponents in the past. But why now? Why dig up a snapshot from 15 or 20 years ago? To understand the time, we need to look at the frenemy link between these two during the last 10 years. 50 and Jim seem to get along nicely at times. They have been seen cracking jokes, praising each other's hustle in interviews, and performing together on stages. But for 50 Cent, friendship is often a Trojan horse. He stays close to his enemies so he can see their weaknesses. The gap widened again as Jim Jones began to establish closer ties with some of 50's other rivals. 50 thought that a friend's adversary was also my enemy. Additionally, Jim was once more singled out due of his shifting loyalties. The aforementioned rumored night reportedly took place during the height of the Junet era when 50 Cent was the most powerful person in the music industry. Rumor has it that during a tough period between Junet and Dipset, there was a covert encounter or contact where boundaries were crossed. It doesn't really important if this is a creation of 50's imagination or not. The troll quickly prevails in the court of public opinion once the conversation starts. 50 Cent's tens of millions of fans began making fun of Jim Jones, the relationship, and flooding his comments with 50 emojis. Jim Jones, who had a street reputation and a fierce temper, was in a difficult situation. If he ignored it, he looked weak. He delivered 50 Cent the precise response he wanted. If he did, he uses your anger to make you look crazy while he chuckles, waits for you to lose it, and then bets you with a personal jab. We call this the 50 Cent trap. For Chrissy Lampkin, the situation was far more humiliating. For a woman who has built her own name and stood for her boyfriend through good times and bad, being exploited as a pawn in a rap war was a low blow. She was forced to defend her persona against an old story that she didn't even start. Ghost Sadat. The fissure became a vast canyon when the digital world dominated it. Every podcast, blog, and Twitter discussion began examining the body language in that old photo. Some would also say, notice how look at the smirk on 50's face. Near she is to him. 50 Cent operates in this way. He provides the internet and the spark fuels the fire. His captions, silence conveyed more information than 1,000 words could. It told of a hidden alliance, a secret evening, and a betrayal that Jim Jones supposedly did not expect. The capo couldn't to keep quiet while the days passed and the gossip grew. The tension changed from social media to the real world. People close to the Dipback group began to spread rumors about Jim's discontent. This was more than just a rap feud. It was a matter of New York pride. No longer. Jim Jones always believed that he was a real one, a man without the online gaming skills that 50 possesses. But when a man who has a history of ruining careers is bringing up your woman's name, you have to stand up. Mud. The first scene of the drama sets the stage for a much bigger battle. It proves that 50 Cent is not just a talented rapper, but also a master storyteller. He understands that knowledge will be more powerful than force in 2026. In essence, he ruined any chance of living in harmony with Jim Jones. In reference to Chrissy, a woman trapped in the middle of a battle between two giants, this bomb was released. He established a line in the sand, with an angry Jim Jones on one side and a bewildered public on the other. But what did really happen that night? How did Jim Jones decide to strike back? As we move on to the next chapter of this story, we will look at the immediate effects of these rumors as well as the psychological harm they inflict on the Dipset camp. This struggle was just beginning to pick up steam, and everyone was waiting to see if Jim Jones would play the 50s game or if he would find a way to totally twist the outcome. When 50 Cent strikes, he targets not just the chin, but also his reputation. Jim Jones had the upper hand as the rumors about that covert night with Chrissy Lampkin began making the rounds on hip-hop sites. Silence is sometimes seen as weakness in the streets of New York. And Jim Jones, a veteran who has weathered the most trying moments in the rap industry, found himself in a challenging circumstance. However, reacting too rapidly could be interpreted as emotional. From a professional disagreement, the rift had turned into an obvious violation of the code. For days, the internet was a battlefield. Fans of 50 Cent's G-Unit, who are renowned for being some of the most vicious trolls on the internet, deluged Jim's social media accounts. They weren't just making remarks. In addition, they were creating memes, finding old interviews, and looking for any kind of evidence to back up 50's narrative. This is what makes an attack by 50 Cent unique. He provides ammo that an army of followers can use to attack his target. Apart from the content, Jim Jones was facing mounting criticism. How do you defend your honor and your girlfriend when a man enjoys having no off switch? Jim Jones finally spoke up, but not in the way that many had expected. Instead of a usual diss track or an angry Instagram live tirade, Jim took a more measured approach. 50 Cent is portrayed as a buffoon and a snitch, who exploits women in order to stay relevant because his music career isn't as successful as it once was. He began writing on fidelity, endurance, and genuine street enterprise. Jim had a strategy. Genuine street enterprise. Jim had a strategy. He wanted to change the conversation away from the supposed night with Chrissy and back to 50 Cent's character. Jim was out in the streets making moves and keeping the Dipset flag high. He reminded everyone, 50, meanwhile, was busy browsing through old photo albums. But Jim had a hard time getting past the Chrissy part. Renowned for taking a straightforward stance on hip-hop and love, there's more to Chrissy Lampkin than just a girlfriend. She is an independent cultural figure. When she finally addressed the issue, her response was icy and disdainful. She didn't give 50 Cent the satisfaction of a breakdown. Instead, she took the high road, implying that 50 was fixated on her and Jim's connection because he couldn't find a comparable relationship for himself. As a master of the pivot, this was a pointed jibe at 50's own complicated dating history, which has been tainted by brief romances with several models and public disputes with the mothers of his children. 50 Cent didn't slow down, though. He overturned Chrissy's termination. He began posting even more enigmatic content that suggests some people are skilled at deceiving themselves. Additionally, he began bringing up the concept of the cape, a cultural term for a male who stands up for a woman in spite of her past wrongdoings. 50 was being even more insulting when he called Jim Jones a captain of Aho. He wanted everyone to believe that he was more knowledgeable than Jim, or, even worse, Jim was aware of it, but he lacked the strength to take action. The difference between Junit and Dipset, who had been mostly idolized for years, was suddenly more noticeable. This was not just about two artists, but about two different ideologies. Jim Jones stood for traditional New York on one side, where private matters are maintained, secret, and your lady is always safeguarded. On the other hand, 50 Cent represented the new social media world order, in which nothing is sacred and everything is intended for the general audience. As the crisis worsened, more industry leaders began to take sides. They kept a close eye on Cameron and the other Dipset camp members. Would Cam intervene to defend his brother, or would he stay out of the way? Considering how aggressive 50 Cent can be when he's driven, the Dipset camp was unusually silent, which led to even more rumors. Is this creating strife inside the group? Did some people believe that 50 Cent was being honest? Because they foster paranoia, 50 tactics are both cruel and lovely. He notices how people in his target's local proximity start to see each other differently after sowing the seeds of mistrust. During this period, the rumored night became the subject of its own folklore. Some started claiming that it happened at a specific club or at a private party after a significant awards ceremony in 2005. In the digital age, a viral lie spreads more quickly than a dull fact. So even if none of these charges were verified, 50 Cent knew he was winning as long as people were talking about the timing. Jim Jones believed he was living a luxurious lifestyle, yet more importantly, who was generating media attention without putting out a single song. The rift also had an effect on the business side of things. Jim Jones had been a part of several high-profile contracts, including new music, brand, and collaborations. Suddenly, every interview he did was dominated by inquiries about Chrissy and 50 Cent. Carried out, it had a frustrated expression. In an effort to leave a legacy, 50 was trying to turn his life into a reality TV spectacle. When your personal life starts to get in the way of your bag, the drama truly started to hurt. When a video of Jim Jones in a club aired, looking quite upset when the DJ played a 50 Cent, the tension reached a breaking point and the stakes moved from the internet to your money. The video went viral right away. Minutes later, the rift had appeared, and naturally, 50 Cent shared it along with a remark mocking Jim for becoming agitated. Sources claim that at important events, the two factions had to be kept apart to avoid a violent altercation. The hip-hop scene became concerned. Would this make for another awful headline, or could it stay up online? As this chapter of the story draws to a close, the lines have been drawn. Jim Jones is dug in his heels because he will not allow 50 Cent to destroy his relationship or his soul. Even though Chrissy has defended her partner, the rumor still lingers. 50 Cent, meanwhile, sits on his digital throne and waits for the next opportunity to pull a knife. Neither guy is willing to let up, yet this conflict is going toward a confrontation that neither can truly win. The next section will look at the deeper psychological causes of 50 Cent's obsession with Jim and Chrissy, as well as how this specific quarrel fits into the larger framework of 50 Cent's Take No Prisoner's tactics against his opponents. We'll also examine the receipts that proponents claim to have found to see if they offer any solid proof. In the history of hip-hop competition, several rappers have written songs. Additionally, 50 Cent is a man who creates entire scripts, destroy his opponents. To understand the breach with Jim Jones, you need to understand the 50 scorched earth tactic. When 50 targets show up, he looks for more than just a bad lyric. He looks for a breach in their personal lives. 50 was using a tactic he had refined almost 20 years by bringing up the spouse infraction. Chrissy Lampkin. We saw it happen with Rick Ross and the mother of his child. We saw it in Yahoo, who was always making fun of his family's shame. 50 Cent knows that a man might not notice a joke about his cars or jewelry, but he cannot deny a public narrative that suggests his lady was formerly on the Gunnet roster. But a blurry Instagram picture wasn't enough for the internet. Every grainy photo from a nightclub in 2004 was examined in the current era of the deep web and obsessive fan forums as the drama moved into 2025 and 2026 because they were looking for receipts. Rumors circulated about a night in Miami where Jim Jones and 50 Cent spent a lot of time during their rise. Some fans even went so far as to fabricate hotel and travel logs, saying they had found proof that 50 Cent and Chrissy attended the same private events. It created the illusion of smoke and mirrors. 50 Cent just wanted the world to believe it was conceivable. Even if the majority of this was clearly the product of internet detectives with too much spare time, there was nothing he had to prove. This psychological strategy is the reason the gap is so damaging. Millions of people must be making jokes about Jim Jones's partner's background. Someone who has frequently expressed his admiration for Chrissy by calling her the flyest, baddest lady from Harlem. Despite the fact that he knows deep down that nothing transpired, Jim's authority was directly undermined by this. Jim is renowned for his love to Chrissy. Without a wedding band, they have been together for nearly 2 decades, a fact that 50 took use of as well, suggesting that Jim was wise enough to avoid marriage. when 50 Cent began to release music and video that seemed to put Jim Jones in danger, particularly a controversial film showing Jim's landlord requesting past due rent for a podcast studio division became even more noticeable. By adding financial disgrace to personal contempt, 50 was attempting to paint Jim as a man whose entire capo character was a house of cards. The Cameron factor. As the drama unfolded, Cameron, Jim's longtime brother-in-arms, seemed to be taking sides. The most fascinating feature of this rift is this. While Jim was protecting his family, Cam was seen laughing and speaking with 50 Cent on various platforms. The ultimate betrayal to the outside world seemed to be this. Therefore, if your own brother can laugh with a man who is abusing your woman, then the connection is even real. 50 Cent, ever the strategist, exploited this. By continuing to make fun of Jim Jones, he was able to effectively isolate him inside his own group. Although Cayman doesn't only fight you, which is a testament to his financial savvy, he eliminates your support system, leaving you on your own angry island. 50 wins in this way. Chrissy Lampkin is maybe the most admirable character in this tale. Despite being the subject of numerous rumors, she has largely maintained a minding my business attitude. She is often seen focusing on her own business while sipping her water. The psychological cost of being used as a weapon in a male ego battle, however, cannot be overstated. Every time Jim Jones has an interview, whether it's with Angie Martinez or Drink Champs, the shadow of 50 Cent's rumors follows him. He must frequently clarify his relationship, his stance on marriage, and his street cred. This is a 50 feud's never-ending cycle. It never truly ends because 50 never stops feeding the fires. Truly comes to an end. Examining the reported night reveals that it has become a famous event in New York legend. According to some, it was the evening at a release party where Juna and Dipet almost got into an altercation. Others assert that because of a mutual regard that has since disappeared. It was a covert Tate rendezvous that was kept secret for years. In the New York hip-hop scene, the rumor itself became the point of contention. Fans had to decide whether to back the Troll King or the Harlem General, who is working to uphold his legacy, regardless of its truth. Who supplies the entertainment? The rift is not just about a lady, it's also about the evolution of the gangster image. During the 1990s, this would have been settled on the streets. In the 2020s, high-definition leaks, strategic podcast appearances, and reposting your opponent's errors are commonplace. 50's inclination to use the internet as a weapon has fundamentally changed the norms of engagement. He has turned Jim Jones' private life into a public spectacle, which could lead to a long-lasting rift. Real or imaginary, the receipts will always be available online. An enduring imprint on the peace they once had, even if they cross paths again in the future. In the final part of this series, we will look at the feud's long-term ramifications. We'll examine whether Jim Jones and Chrissy can truly get past the stigma that 50 has imposed on them, as well as the implications for future celebrity partnerships in the age of offensive viral video. We'll also talk about if 50 Cent is simply delaying dropping his biggest bomb yet and the possibility of a peace accord. The dispute between 50 Cent and Jim Jones has escalated from little social media trolling to a significant tactical confrontation as 2026 goes on. 50 Cent was occupied with creating surprising behind-the-scenes actions as the world kept talking about that supposed night with Chrissy Lampkin, when CCTV evidence of Jim Jones in a heated argument at his own Bronx podcast studio surfaced in early February 2026. The drama came to a head. This wasn't a rap fight, it was a property dispute. In a maneuver that can only be described as 50 Cent revealed that he had entered into a commercial partnership with the building's landlord, which he described as wicked. The picture of 50 Cent hugging Sam, the owner of the IFC factory where Jim Jones hosts his Let's Rap About It podcast, shocked the industry. In addition to hurting Jim's sentiments, 50 Cent wanted to own the house where he lived. Thus, his disrespectful caption was a masterclass. "My partner is Sam. The place is mine. You must now mend every door you kick, or I will kick your ass. Jimmy." This was the final checkmate. In a society where control and domination are valued, the utmost disrespect was shown when 50 claimed ownership of the building and effectively made Jim Jones his tenant. Jim Jones was seen on security footage on February 19, 2026, furiously kicking a closed door after learning that the electricity had been cut off. Not wanting to miss a beat, 50 Cent posted an alleged eviction notice to Joseph Jones, Jim's legal name, stating that Jim's lease had been canceled. This action altered the entire story. It was no longer about a woman from the past, but rather the stability of Jim Jones' financial empire in the present. At the height of his psychological warfare, 50 had successfully made Jim look like a squatter in his own city. But Jim Jones, a Harlem street veteran, did not pass away without a fight. Jim decided to accept the show instead of reacting in a traditional way. Wearing same clothing to he posted a video of himself using karate and martial arts moves while chopping wood, which was captured by surveillance. He clearly identified himself as Kung Fu Jim's message. The hustler spirit cannot be shut out, even if the doors are locked. He ridiculed the idea of getting kicked out, claiming that we had cable and that the studio had a big screen. But the damage to his reputation was already done. The internet said that 50 Cent had successfully driven out his rival, solidifying his reputation as the most dangerous person in hip-hop. Cameron's involvement in this latest chapter added fuel to the fire. Cameron and 50 Cent seem to have developed a relationship in 2025 and 2026 coalition of troll monarchs. A significant divide in the Dipset family was exposed by Cameron's public comments over Jim's rent being due and his offer to sell him money for the heat. For Jim, this was perhaps the most painful part of the rift. Having a brother would cause a level of loneliness that would break most guys. Kamran, grinning, while your longtime partner, Chrissy, is being disparaged by rumors and your adversary. In spite of 50 Cent's spiteful attempt to buy a 50% stake in Jim's show, Chrissy has remained loyal to Jim and has taken the minding my business stance. This fissure acts as a caution for the contemporary era when we look back on its legacy in 2026. 50 Cent has shown that your personal history, lease agreements, and public data are more vulnerable in the digital age than your lyrics. If the rumors about Chrissy and that night out were ever true, he uses his vast wealth to essentially buy the ground his rivals stand on, making beef into a business model that is now basically irrelevant. The rumors served as a key for 50 to penetrate Jim's personal life. Once inside, he began tearing it apart piece by piece. Will Jim Jones be able to bounce back from this? The 50 Cent, even though Shadow is long and depressing, he continues to make music and run his podcast. 50 Cent always makes a troll post after Jim wins. Every business deal he signs is scrutinized by 50's social media and legal teams. For Jim Jones, this is the new normal. However, 50 Cent continues to expand his business by using these disputes to maintain his notoriety while producing documentaries and TV shows. For 50, Jim Jones is more than just a rival. 50 is producing a reality show in which he appears as a character. The rift that emerged as a result of the rumored night out with Chrissy Lampkin became a real estate battleground of historic proportions. It has tested the limits of loyalty, the resilience of a 20-year partnership, and the internet's capacity to destroy reputations. Although Chrissy and Jim Jones are still together, New York's hip-hop landscape has undergone permanent transformation. The tycoon is still giggling, the queen is still drinking water, and the capo is still fighting. In 50 Cent's reality, the struggle never ends. It just moves. Was it too much for 50 Cent to bring up a man's personal money and partner? Or was this just the brutal truth of the rap scene in 2026? Do you think the night with Chrissy that was rumored is real? Or is Jim Jones simply the most recent 50s victim? Excellent manipulation of the mind. Excellent manipulation of the mind.